Welcome, Andre Venus, to the Vegan Champion Podcast. How are you doing today, Andre?
I'm doing really good. How about you?
I'm great, man. Thanks for connecting over Instagram. We just connected a few days ago, and I've had a chance to check out some of the stuff you're doing on social media there. Looks
Yeah.
really good, man.
Thank you, man. And thank you for having me.
Oh, man, it's a pleasure. Yeah, I think a lot about what would be good for the vegan community, and I think just a podcast where it's just regularly you're getting exposed to different people. You can just scroll through. Like, I just want to just pump out and just get as many people exposed to as many different people, sharing this kind of message as possible. So yeah, I
Yeah.
love to do it, and I've just been doing it a lot since the sort of quarantine thing started, right? So it's been a good thing that's come out of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you've got some interesting things to share with everybody today. So I'd like you to, I wanted to start with giving you the floor, man, because I haven't heard your story, and I asked you, is there a video or is there somewhere where you've, kind of told your story, and you said that you haven't really done one yet, right?
Yeah. No, it's basically always been like a point of like, I'd say a bit uncomfort because it's not always as easy to explain and tell other people from your own experience, right?
Right.
But I think it's beneficial for many people. And even if it just helps a few people, that would make me very happy. I just want to put out the information so that it could help others as well, the way it helped me.
Okay, so
So
that's gonna be the goal. That's gonna be the goal of this conversation. Is we're gonna go through this, and I'll try not to interrupt you, but I may just ask, like, for points of clarification.
yeah, yeah.
I'll try to just do that, but I just want to kind of give you the floor, and let's start from where it all started. Give people a bit of context. Where'd you grow up?
Okay, yeah.
Give you a bit of background on
So,
yourself, and yeah.
sure. Okay. Well, many people always ask like where I'm from and everything. And I always say it's really hard for me to explain where I'm from because genetically I'm half Brazilian and half Norwegian. So
Okay.
that's a bit of a mix right there.
Okay.
So my father's from Norway and my mother's from Brazil. And we've lived a bit all over the world. We've lived a bit in Norway. We've lived in US actually, and in Spain. I've pretty much grown up all my life in Spain. That is where I am right now in Barcelona, and just moving around the world, traveling. So I really don't really feel myself connected to any place. I just feel like I'm international, and I feel that that's helped me a lot to understand people from all over the place and different cultures, different ways of living.
Very
And
interesting.
yeah,
That's super interesting to
yeah.
me.
Yeah, you've only lived in one place, or have you also moved around a lot?
I have a little bit of, I can relate to what you're saying, because I've spent like the last 6 years mostly in Thailand, over the past
That's
6 years.
it.
So yeah, I've kind of got to understand Thai culture a little bit, and a bit more of perspective that offers, seeing the different vantage points. But yeah, sounds like you've moved around a bit more. So what language do you speak? All of those languages? Some of those languages?
Yeah, I speak four languages. So I speak Norwegian, Portuguese, English, and Spanish. So
All
yeah, it was
fluently.
all fluent. The funny thing is I had to learn pretty much all four of them at the same time. So I was learning Norwegian to speak with my family and Portuguese to speak with my Brazilian family, whilst I was learning Spanish because I lived in Spain when I was growing up, and I was learning English because I was going to English school.
Okay, so let's break this down. I'm interested to break this down as to, like, walk me through. Okay, so you were born, like, how many years did you spend in each country,
Okay.
or has it just been would it just be too would it just take too long to explain because you've traveled
Uh,
so much?
it goes, so I was born in a small city in Norway, and I lived there until I was 2. And at that time, my parents decided they wanted to move to a warmer country. So that's when we moved to Barcelona for the first time. And from 2 to 7, I lived in Barcelona. So that's where I started going to school, learning languages, right? So that's when
Okay.
I was learning Norwegian, Portuguese, English, and Spanish all at the same time.
Okay.
So
And
I
so
always had
they
like Yeah,
Sorry, so you were saying that in certain environments you were speaking like with certain people, like did you decide with certain relationships, right, that like, or I guess your parents would have decided obviously that
yeah,
like with this person you speak this language, with this person you speak another language. Was it like that?
yeah. So our family is, we always speak Norwegian to each other. So all the siblings speak Norwegian, and we speak Norwegian to our father, whilst we speak Portuguese to my mother, and my parents speak Portuguese between them. So it's a
Wow,
house with lots of languages.
cool.
And then with my friends, most of my friends I speak English because I studied and grew up in a British school.
Right.
So then I speak English with them, and then some Spanish with some of my Spanish friends, and from sports and everything. So all the time switching between languages. And it
Very
took some
cool.
time to master each language because I was learning and trying to develop each of these languages at the same time. So I was always like getting confused between the words and the grammar and everything. But it turned out good after all, after some time.
Wow. Yeah, I have to say I'm a bit jealous. I mean, I started speaking English quite well at like a pretty young age. Like just one day I was just like, boom, this kid is speaking with like grammatically correct English. Like that's how it was like with me. And so they were like, maybe he's good at languages. Let's put him in French immersion. Because here in Canada, we have that option to like go into a French immersion. And I
Yeah,
hated it because I was like, I didn't see the need. Like I had already made friends, I guess, that in like the English classes, and like I was,
yeah,
everybody speaking French. It was just I was like, why? Like the only time when I didn't see the purpose in it. But now, of course, I wish I could speak French a lot better. That would be definitely helpful. But five
yeah, for sure.
languages, yeah, I'm jealous, man. I'm jealous. I'm sure that you're, yeah, happy that you went through any difficulties at the time
Yeah,
when
for
you're
sure.
a young man.
Yeah,
So okay, so you're 7 years old. You can speak like all these languages.
yeah,
Like bring us forward a little bit. How do you, how do you? I guess you started experiencing some health problems at some point, or take
yeah.
us into that and how that all
Okay,
develops.
so after I was 7, we moved to the US and we lived there for 3 years in Texas. That's when I was first meeting people from a whole different culture, whole different way of living and thinking. So that was the first time I got
Can,
exposed
sorry,
to.
sorry to interrupt. Can we just? So how old are you? Like, what year were you born, and like when is this all going down?
I was born in 2001,
Okay,
so I'm 19 right now.
okay. So this is like
So this is
2000.
an 8 to 10 in
Yeah.
Texas. Yeah.
Okay. So you moved to Texas. Okay. So what goes down in Texas?
In Texas, we're just getting to learn a lot of how people live in different cultures. And I remember having I'd say maybe not a friend, but a colleague in school
Mm-hmm.
that was a vegetarian. So that was like the first time I heard about that.
Right.
But at that age, you're not really interested in these things. You just want to play games and have fun all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
that's when
Yep.
I first got introduced to different lifestyle of eating and health. And then after that, we moved to Norway because we didn't really enjoy ourselves in Texas, to be honest.
Okay. Why was that?
And I don't know, we didn't really connect with the people there.
Hmm.
Mostly my brothers when they were a bit older, teenagers, and just completely different ways of life.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother is used to, the sun and the beaches. So she didn't really enjoy it. It was
Yeah,
too
I can
flat for
imagine.
her.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had to move to Norway for a year because of my father's job. So we moved from Texas to Norway for a year. And then after that, we went back to Spain. That's where I've been until now. But the same house as before.
How did you like Norway?
I really liked it, to be honest. It's a bit too cold, but yeah, it was nice for sure. It was a very short amount of time that I lived there though.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved to Spain, and this is where everything started.
Okay. So you arrive
So
in Spain and you're how old?
I am, let's see, I'm 12 years old.
Okay.
So fast forward 3 years, it is May 2015. And that is when my mother actually, we're just at the beach and she suddenly noticed some white marks in my face.
Hmm.
So we were just thinking it's probably just sun marks or something. So we just ignored it. But over time, it got bigger and larger and more of these spots appearing on my face and even a bit on my shoulder. So that's when we decided to get it checked out with the doctors.
Right.
And that is when I learned that I was diagnosed with vitiligo, which is a autoimmune disease.
Say that again. So what is it called again?
Vitiligo. Have you heard of it?
Vitiligo. Okay.
Yeah. So that is basically when uh, your body starts attacking your skin cells, and they end up dying. That's why they lose the color and become white.
Okay.
So it's killing the skin cells.
Wow.
And we, yeah,
And so
so we,
is it painful, or is it like it's just discoloration?
well, it's just discoloration. But the thing about autoimmune disease is that if you get one autoimmune disease, your risk for getting other autoimmune diseases increases dramatically.
So
So
can we just I'd like to know more, and I'm sure people listening may like to know more about autoimmune disease. Like when we say the term autoimmune disease, like what kinds of things are we referring to? Because there's obviously there's many kinds of autoimmune
yeah,
diseases, and
for
they're all
sure.
sort of related. So can you just clarify for people like myself who might be kind of ignorant on these topics,
Yeah.
what exactly, tell us about autoimmune disease.
So autoimmune diseases is a group of diseases, a bit like cancer. There's so many different types of cancers, right? The
Right.
same goes to autoimmune disease.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say the most known, the most known autoimmune diseases would be MS.
Okay.
So that is when you end up losing your mobility in, for example, your legs.
Multiple sclerosis, right?
Yeah, multiple sclerosis.
Right.
So I'd say that is probably the most known one. And there's also lots of different types. For example, I can't remember the name, but the one where your clotting mechanism stops working, so you can bleed out from a little scratch.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact name for that one.
I can't either. I would guess, but I'm not going to because I'm not
Yeah,
sure. But right. So there are many different
yeah.
kinds of these autoimmune diseases.
So those would be like some of the most serious autoimmune diseases. Whilst
Mm-hmm.
some autoimmune diseases aren't so serious, for example, vitiligo is not so serious. It just
Mm-hmm.
affects your looks and your skin, but it doesn't really affect you in a bad way.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
However, by having one autoimmune disease, it weakens your body. Even if it doesn't affect you on like your lifespan or quality, it still weakens your immune system because your body's attacking your body.
Okay.
So it gives, so you're like more likely to get sick and
Mm-hmm.
develop worse conditions.
Is it fair to say that your body is attacking itself for some reason,
Yeah.
and so it's sort of energy resources to actually attack the things that it should be attacking, like bad
Yeah.
bacteria,
So
viruses?
so it basically identifies your. In my case, it identifies the skin cells as like, for example, bacteria. So it thinks it's like invading your body and has to get rid of it. So it attacks it and kills it. So
And do we know why? Like, do scientists know why that happens?
well, there is very much research going on right now. It is one of the diseases that we know least about. But what we do know is that in some examples, there are external factors that affect it. So,
Okay.
for example, radiation could affect it. And sometimes, like, there's a theory for, it's not quite proven yet, but there lots of scientists believe that some chemicals found in meat might affect some types of autoimmune diseases. Like
They have reason to believe that
yeah,
that might be the case.
yeah, that might be the case, but there's not too much backing into it yet. There's a lot of research going on year after year.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah, so it's kind of like a gray zone, you know?
It's a field of ongoing research, right?
Yeah,
Ongoing research and debate.
yeah. So yeah, we don't really know too much about it, but there are some things, and some people have been able to get cured and reverse these diseases.
Right. Okay. And then so bringing it back to your experience. So yeah, just that, I thought that was a good place to sort of
Yeah,
just
for sure.
talk about the what it actually is. So you were having, remind me again the name of your particular
My particular autoimmune
um
disease was
yeah,
called vitiligo.
vitiligo. Okay, so
Yes.
so you're at the beach, your mom sees sort of these white spots happening on your
Yeah.
face, and was it all of a sudden, like?
Yeah, it was just like one day, just randomly looking at my face, and she saw these white spots.
Right. And
At
they
the time, they
stayed,
weren't that
they
big.
didn't go away.
No, they stayed and they got bigger and bigger as time passed.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah.
So what did
So,
as time passed, what does that look like? Like, you mean like over the course of a few days, they just keep growing and growing,
yeah,
or?
just growing slowly but surely until
Uh-huh.
like maybe a week or two. There was a huge mark, like I think it was on my left side of the face. It was like
Hmm.
huge over here, and then like small marks everywhere. So
Right.
that's when
Okay.
we saw that there was something going on. It wasn't just sun marks or anything. So
Hmm.
we decided to go to the doctor and get it checked out as soon as possible.
Hmm.
And that is when the doctor found out that I had vitiligo. So we asked, what can we do? What is it? We got all the information, and the doctor said, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it. You just have to hope the best that it just stops and it doesn't continue spreading. But there's nothing we can do to stop it or cure it.
Huh.
So
And
yeah,
how did you respond to that? What was your feeling when you got told that?
oh yeah, you can imagine at the time I was getting into my teenage years, so you can imagine how a teenager having something that everybody keeps on asking and pressuring you to
Oh,
tell, what is
at
it?
this time you're 15, right? At this
Yeah,
time.
I would be, yeah, 15. I'd be 15. So like everyone asking, hey, what is that white mark? What is this? Do you have cancer? Do you have this? Do you have that?
Yeah.
Like, are you gonna die? No, no. I was getting stressed, getting like insecure, and
Yeah,
yeah,
and that is like you're right in the middle of high school, basically. You
yeah.
know, it's just yeah. I mean, I understand what that's like, and oh man, I can't even imagine. So, and how about your your family at the time? Like your mom, your dad, your brothers. How are they? So we should say so. You've got your mom, your dad. You have two brothers.
I have
Are
two
you
brothers and one sister, and I'm the youngest one.
okay? And how old are all
So,
your siblings?
so my brother and sister, they are 8 years older than me, and my oldest brother is 10 years older than me. So there's quite a difference between us.
And so what is going on in terms of at the time, like are they being supportive of you? Like are you like what's how are you moving forward with this? I guess I mean I'll let you tell the story. Like what is where do you go from here?
Okay, yeah. So at the time, it was just me and my parents living because all of my siblings were out studying university. So we came back from the doctors, and I was feeling really supported by my parents. They were looking in the internet, trying to find some research, doctors in US, doctors in England, see if there's any other opinions. And they were putting so much time and effort into finding alternatives. So I was feeling really grateful for that. Even if they didn't find anything, I would be so happy to have parents that help
That's
and
great.
support me in this way. And after a few days of research, we found a doctor called Dr. Furman. I don't know if you've heard of him and his
Sounds
work.
familiar.
Yeah. So he basically works a lot with reversing and preventing diseases. So we went to his site. We had to pay like an entrance, like 50, I think it was like $50 per month to see all the information. And we went to the autoimmune disease section of the website, and there was actually a part on vitiligo. So what he was saying is that he's actually had some patients with vitiligo that has managed to not completely cure, but make it better, and some that have been completely reversed. And
Okay.
he did this through diet and lifestyle.
Wow.
So basically, what he was saying was a whole food plant-based diet, which means not only vegan, but it means no oil, no processed foods, no added sugar, like super, super healthy, 100% clean. And of course, I knew that this was going to be a lot of work and it might not work, but I thought that it was worth giving it a shot. There wasn't really anything to lose, you know? So that's when we started looking into what a whole food plant-based diet would look like, some recipes, and then we just got started. And my parents actually joined in so that I wouldn't feel jealous, like me eating super clean veggies whilst they were eating like meat. So they joined in and to make,
Wow. That's
you know,
very nice of your parents. That's
for
very
sure.
nice of your parents.
So very, very supportive. I'm really lucky. So yeah,
Wow.
that's when I originally started the vegan diet.
Wow. Okay. So That's amazing. So you're in this position where you've just been told by the doctor you're going to basically have these like, white spots on your skin, and have to, deal with that for the rest of your life, and there's
Yeah.
nothing that can be done.
And that it
And
might just continue spreading to like half of my face is just super white whilst the other one is like tanned.
yeah.
You can imagine how insecure I'd be with that, right?
Hmm.
As a teenager going forward.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And then you find this potential solution that has worked for others, right? So rather than somebody just saying nothing can be done, here's somebody who has worked with people who have allegedly, at least at this point, you're hearing about these people, and you start to say,
yeah.
man, like, what have I got to lose? Like, here's something that, I mean, and how did you react to that? Like when, because I mean, I'm assuming prior to this, you're eating sort of a standard
Oh yeah.
Western, like,
Yeah.
describe what was your diet like prior to this point, like leading up to when you were diagnosed with this.
So my dad, we always looked at it as healthy. My mother has always been always trying to keep as healthy diet as possible. So we always had a lot of veggies and standard Brazilian diet, which would be rice, black beans with veggies, and then beef, for example. So that would be like always a lot of veggies, a lot of salad.
Mm-hmm.
But then we always had a lot of either chicken or beef in the side.
Okay.
So we're eating meat every day. Just, pretty much a standard diet, just maybe a bit more veggies than most people,
Right.
but far from a vegan diet for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Also a lot of milk because we thought it was important for calcium and bone structure and all that.
Okay, so when you heard this information that they're saying, as you said, whole food, plant-based diet, and maybe we can reiterate, right, that does not just mean vegan. That does not mean Oreos and vegan cakes, right? That
Yeah.
means like fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, seeds, no oils, no sugars, no, you
Yeah.
know, what about like, I don't know, what about like vinegar? Like, is vinegar good?
Vinegar was good. Yeah. That
Vinegar is
was,
okay.
yeah.
What are some, so but anyway, we're talking like foods very close to their natural state. Minimally processed foods,
Yeah.
right? Whole foods. When you start reading about these kind of guidelines, I'm curious as to how you responded. Like, did you sort of go, yeah, this all feels right, this makes sense, or did you have resistance to it and think like, oh well, like, what about protein? Like, what was your initial kind of reaction to reading the stuff that they were suggesting you do?
Well, at the time, one of my brothers was already vegan. So like 2 years before this happened, he became vegan because he met a vegan girl. That's how a lot of it starts as.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we meet someone who's vegan. Yeah.
yeah, and then that's how we were introduced to veganism. And he's already been vegan 2 years, perfect health, blood test results showing that he's healthy. So I wasn't really worried about the healthy part. But I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking, and I remember this so clearly. I was like to my father, the moment this disease gets cured, I want my beef. I was
Yeah.
so like looking forward to that steak again. So I was
That,
definitely
like, you're talking about like in the beginning when you first hear about this, and then you're like,
yeah,
oh, like, you're bummed out, right? Because
yeah, for sure.
you're not convinced. Your brother's gone vegan.
Yeah,
At this point, so I'm interested in this because I went vegan before my brother went vegan, and my brother is now, he's eating plant-based, and he's basically sold on a lot of the stuff, but he wasn't originally. My family wasn't originally. Now, in the beginning, I was the first person who was vegan in my family. So your brother was vegan. You're looking at your brother who's vegan, and you maybe even have like, is there tension between you guys? Like, you're sort of like the one saying, oh, like, meat's the way, like, you guys, I mean,
yeah.
you weren't living together at the time, I think you
No,
said, right?
yeah, he was in university whilst I was with my parents still.
So he
But
could
I
go and
remember,
he could be vegan and do his own thing, and it didn't
yeah,
really
but
affect you too much.
I remember like I actually feel a bit bad about this, but like I remember we always had barbecues on Saturdays, a Brazilian tradition. So every time we had that juicy Brazilian steak, I would send the picture to my brother. Hey, don't you miss eating this? look at this standard Brazilian tradition, breaking the traditions, saying all these things that we hear every day. So I wasn't anti-vegan. I was just like, I guess I was a bit childish, just always trying to make fun of him for making the change. And so that's why I'm saying, like, I understand where people come from, and you really just have to, understand people and not be judgmental. We've all been in that stage at some point, most of us at least. Almost no one is born vegan, So
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And I'll give you credit there, because not everybody would come out and say, things that they've done. Like, it's, you're looking back and you're saying, yeah, I was young, I was, whatever, like that, I did what I did, but you're sharing it with us here. And that's valuable, right? Because like right now, like I'm doing, when I'm dealing with the comments on like TikTok, right? Where all these, a lot of young people on there, and people are seeing me talk about veganism, and they're, making these excuses and, sending me steak emojis and all that. Right. And like, I have absolutely zero hate for any of those people, because I understand that, like, it's it's ingrained in our culture, and it's going to take some time, and people are going to kick and scream as we speak the truth about, what's good for the animals and what's healthy and what's best for the environment and all that. And they can kick and scream, but in the future we're going to be looking back, and it's going to be like, yeah, what did we say? What were we saying all along? Right? It's so logical. Like, that's why I'm always curious to ask, like, so the second half of that, so initially you're like, oh man, I can't wait till this is done, I want to eat my steak again, right? That was like sort of day one of when you hear about this stuff. You're like, hey, I'm doing this, but just to clear this up, like, I'm just doing this for my health, and like, as soon as so has that evolved since then, or are you still literally waking up every morning like salivating over the day that you get?
That has definitely changed over time. So basically, I was 1 month into the whole food plant-based diet when I actually noticed that there was this tiny spot of color in my white mark. So there's like a little dot of like, tanned. So I was like, okay, maybe this is actually going to work. So I was motivated. I was ready to continue for months and months until it got cured. But at this time, I was still thinking about my steak, my cheese and all of this.
Right.
But I was really motivated to do this whole food plant-based diet.
Sorry, so how long was that after? So you said you started eating this way.
That was 1 month after.
And then 1 month after, you started to notice, oh, like, hey, look, there's a bit of color coming back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was like, I was feeling confident that it was actually going to work. It wasn't all in vain.
It's a good sign, right?
Yeah, for sure. Only 1 month. That's all it took to have a tiny bit of color come back.
And so I can only imagine, like, I'm feeling, as you're telling this story, I'm like feeling what you're going through, right? Because it's like, I can imagine, like, you go from this place of like, you almost have no hope because the doctor's like, nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And then to finding a potential solution. And then only 1 month after getting into that solution, which I'm assuming you were probably told that, like, look, this is going to be a long-term thing, right? Like, it's not like a
maybe
2-day fix.
Yeah, maybe even like years.
So you're expecting, like, I'm in this for the long haul, I'm dedicated, and then only 1 month, and then like, man, like, that's gotta like give you some
boost,
hope, right?
Start to feel good. A boost in hope.
Yeah. Okay, and then so take us forward. Like, what happens from there?
So I just continue eating this super clean diet, and not gonna lie, I was always avoiding my friends, like, when they're, oh, so you're vegan, why is this? And I didn't want to tell them about my disease because I was quite insecure about it. So I was just like, yeah, I'm vegan for the animals and all this. And I would just continue forward. And as the months went by, the color was getting bigger and bigger. And I was being more and more comfortable with this diet. I started saying, hey, the food actually tastes good. It's not boring as I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm feeling the energy coming back to me whilst I'm seeing my, how it's moving forward, how I'm actually getting slowly better. So my motivation is still really, really high, and I continue. And around 5 or 6 months into the diet, pretty much all of my marks are gone. I just have the only thing left is like a tiny bit of the huge mark. There's a tiny spot after 6 months of only diet and a bit of sun, staying outside, getting some color. That's all. The strict diet plus sunlight. 6 months.
Wow.
Pretty much cured.
Did you immediately go back to that doctor that told you there was nothing you could do?
Yeah, I wish I did, but I don't know. I just felt that it would be a bit rude, to be honest. But
Fair
if
enough. I
if
mean, it's just the first thing that comes to mind, right? I mean, like, isn't it just, it's
but
kind of
yeah,
crazy. Just
that's when I actually started being a bit skeptical on the
the
nutrition
medical,
recommendations of the doctors for sure.
right? Yeah, the medical model.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah. I mean, we could do a whole hour on that.
for sure.
Are we treating symptoms and what's important? Are we creating health, or are we, like he said, there's nothing we can do? That basically means, look, there's no drug that's been developed that I can
Yeah,
prescribe you, right?
for sure.
It's not to say that, no, the human body is incapable of healing that when you give it the proper fuel. So, okay, so that is such a good story. Like, I feel I have such, like, I'm so happy right now for you. Like, I'm so happy for you. So that
I think
so so this was, I just said, about 6 months
yeah,
after.
about
So
6 months
so
after I
this time
started.
you're still 15. This is like the same
Yeah, I
year, or
was still
maybe
15. Yeah,
or
I
maybe
was still,
you're 16 or whatever. Like, it's you're
yeah,
basically
I'm
right. Okay, so
basically the same person. I was still 16. No, I was still 15, and I still had a tiny, tiny mark. So I continued with this diet, and 1 year into the diet, more or less, it was all gone. I went to doctors. They said there was no signs of vitiligo anymore, and it was all back to being tanned, no white marks, and I was feeling really relieved.
wow.
But during the second 6 months, my other brother became vegan as well through the influence of my other brother. So my oldest brother went vegan because he watched a documentary called Earthlings. I'm sure you heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then he recommended it to us, and we saw it, and then we thought, yeah, well, this this diet is curing my disease, but on top of that, it's good for the animals. So that's when I started getting the motivation for other reasons than my health. So at this point, I was thinking already, even if I get 100% cured, I think I'm still going to continue with this diet for the sake of animals and environment. Because growing up, I've always loved animals and always loved reading books about them and playing with the little action figures of animals. So the moment I saw this, my whole perspective changed. And that's when I decided that me and my parents, we all decided we're going to continue with this diet. Of course, it will be a bit less strict. So right now I'm not in a whole food plant-based diet. I eat a bit of oil, a bit of processed, but I'm still
Okay.
going strong. And right now I'd say my main reasons is for animals and the environment. And of course I want to keep the health because I don't want to go through something like that again.
Understandably so, man.
So so one
That's
year, that's all it took to get
wow.
cured. 1 year.
Wow. That is amazing. You've got such a powerful story, man. If this is the first time you're telling your story, dude, I am honored to be the person that you are, getting this out to the world through, man. So we
Yeah.
got to share this interview, man. I think there's so many different things that we could talk about in there. Like, I think it's a lot of people. One thing that comes to mind is this conversation about to how to advocate for veganism or how to advocate for animal rights, right? Some people will say that, we shouldn't be advocating for the health benefits. We should only be talking about the animals. Other people would say, we should only be talking about the health benefits because that's what people want. Other people say it's the environment. And then
Yeah.
a lot of people who I would probably tend to agree with is just like, it's all good. Like, let's talk about all of it, because just to your point of what you just said, you when you first were exposed to veganism and you were sending, messages or pictures of steak to your brother, right? And then
For sure.
and then you found out the health benefits. It's like, okay, I'll try this, or I am doing this. It wasn't even trying. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
committing to try to making a change here for my health. And you made a point of saying explicitly, like, not for the animals, because you're just still looking forward to that steak, right? It's not
Yeah.
about the animals. And then 6 months later, you see the results, you see the film, and then that film really becomes the main reason that you're staying vegan,
Yeah.
right? Because as you just said, I guess now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but so when you were healing yourself, you were very, very strict about whole food, plant-based, no oil, no added,
Yeah,
salt,
very, very
sugar,
strict.
whatever, like
Yeah,
super
no
strict.
chips, no nothing, just 100% clean.
But then now, sort of over the years, as you've start to felt better, I would assume, and
Yeah,
not having any symptoms or anything, you've started to, allow yourself the odd treat kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. But I'd still say I eat mostly like 80 to 90% clean still, and just with
Right.
occasional cake, occasional
Mhm.
pancakes and
Yeah.
treats, but mostly still whole food plant-based diet.
But you keep it even all the treats and you keep all that vegan for the animal reasons, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So, I mean, it would be easy for you if you hadn't seen Earthlings, or if you didn't care about, animal rights or anything, to just say, oh, to hell with it. I'll just have, some whatever, like non-vegan something. But the thing that keeps that vegan, the thing that keeps you vegan is the fact that the animals, like a lot of people say that the health brings people in to the awareness
yeah,
of veganism, but then it's ultimately, at the end of the day, it really is the ethics that keeps people vegan,
yeah, for sure.
and I
I'd say
think there's some truth to that.
it's the biggest point of staying motivated in this diet,
Mm-hmm.
because many people care about their health, but I feel that like it's not a big enough motivation to make such a big lifestyle change. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the animal rights and maybe environment as well would be the two biggest
I'm
points.
really interested hearing your perspective on this, especially because like I'm starting to like become an old man. I'm gonna be 30 next week. My birthday,
Oh,
30th, the dirty
so old,
30,
so
man.
old.
The big 3-0. So I'm kind of, but I mean, like, look, I'm loving life. I'm super happy. I'm not complaining.
Yeah,
I couldn't be happier. But like,
that's good.
the fact remains, I am. So how old are you now? You are now
I'm
19,
19,
right?
19, yeah.
So, we've got like I'm 29 now. We have 10 years between us. We have a decade between us. And like, I remember 10 years ago was when I went vegan. Actually, it's interesting when you said it was when you were 15, because when I was 14, 15, I went vegetarian for like 9 months. And then I went back to, like, I went vegetarian. I ate so much cheese and milk, and like I gained weight, and I felt pretty terrible. And I felt like social isolation. I was social awkwardness in high school. Like, you want to,
Yeah,
put that upon yourself, become vegetarian in a school where nobody else is vegetarian. And other
yeah,
than maybe for religious reasons, like you said. But so I had that experience when I was 15. And then I actually sort of convinced, again, I'm not proud to say this, but I kind of convinced myself to just forget about the ethical things that I had learned that made me want to go vegetarian, just because it was giving me such a hard time. Like, I wasn't happy with, my situation. I wanted the approval of others. Like, not proud to say it, but like, that's what it was about. It was about wanting to fit in. And then what happened for me several years later, when I was 19, was I started to have some health stuff come up. And then, the health sort of reminded me about the ethical things. But at that point, I was ready to say, look, I'm doing what's right. Doesn't matter what people think of me. But what I wanted to get into was, I mean, you're you've got you're part of a sort of a different generation, I guess you would say, right? Like 10 years. I don't know, how do they even determine, like, what makes, is it at 10 years? I don't know. So we
uh,
might even be,
yeah, I'm not even sure.
I'm not even sure, like, who's to say, right? But anyway, you're
Yeah,
younger than me. Like, I'm, here I am, like, using TikTok and trying to, stay in touch with like youth culture so that I can still have influence and try to influence people to go vegan who are younger, because I think that the younger somebody is, the more they're willing to like change their, they're willing to look at their values and like adapt their value system of like how they live their life and how they view the
yeah,
world. And I think that, given how much I think needs to change in this world, I want to remain relevant with young people. So just asking you, as a young person, I'm really interested into like, how do you think about, and it's I'm super glad to hear you say that, by the way, that that you are so motivated by the animals and animal rights and stuff. That always makes me happy when I hear people connecting with that. And not to put anything down on people who are more so focused on the human health benefits, because
yeah,
when I heard your story, and like I'm feeling the emotion that you went through, like that roller coaster, like, man, I have a lot of compassion for you. And despite the fact that you were a meat eater at the time, like, I
yeah,
it's still a compassionate thing for people who focus on the health message, is all I'm trying to say. But
sure.
you have this reason to promote veganism. You're obviously, it's profoundly impacted your life in a positive way, and you feel the need to get your message out and help other people, as you said, right? Like that's why
Yeah.
we're here today. So how do you think about being effective for you? Like, what do you see your role as being, in terms of how can you help people? Like, is it this story of finding health again that you look to connect with people on, and help to find people through that avenue? Or do you see yourself doing more kind of, focusing on animal rights? Or how do you think about your approach to change, given your perspective?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think that the way I see it, like people all react differently to different things. So some people feel much more emotional to the part of the animals, whilst others much more to other people's stories and how they've changed, and hearing what they've gone through. And I think that the important part in spreading the message is trying to get all of these three main points. Even if you're not really that interested in health, people still do care. Like they don't want to be sick. And even if you don't really care about animals, just to know the information. And I think that's just a combination of these three is key. So I want to at least spread my journey through this lifestyle change that I've made, because it could inspire people who are also going through troubles to do the same and increase their life quality. So that is a huge, huge motivation for me, but also for the sake of animals and the environment, as this is really important as it affects all animals and humans as well.
Mm-hmm.
Global warming is affecting us more and more each year. And I think many people, as you said, younger generation, care a lot about the future. And I think that putting a bit of all of these concepts is key, for sure.
I love it, man. So what are you doing now? Tell us, like, what are you, like, are you still, are you studying, or like, tell us about where you're at, these days. So you saw Earthlings, and then what have you been doing since you saw Earthlings?
Oh, since then, I've just pretty much tried to work on myself to be comfortable with this story. It took some time, not gonna lie.
Yeah, you were
And
saying, yeah. No, man, you're doing a great job, by the way. Like, I
thank
am
you.
just like, I am on the edge of my seat right here. I think this is going to be a really popular podcast. Is going to help a lot of people. Like, I'm literally on the edge of my seat as you're telling me this story, dude. So
That's great to hear, man.
you're doing an amazing job, and rest assured, you do have an amazing story. And I'm just like so stoked. I'm like ecstatic right now that we can share this, man. So yeah, but keep us going. So tell us so you're taking some time to get comfortable with kind of, like, I mean, understandably so, man. I mean, what you've just gone through is this like crazy, roller coaster. So,
Yeah.
and you're still kind of on it. I mean, if you just saw Earthlings, you've got, all these images through your head of like what's happening. And so
Yeah.
yeah, tell us about, your reaction to the film, and, what's happened sort of, from then onward.
Well, yeah, so the first vegan documentary I watched was Earthlings, and that affected me on a huge, huge level. And after that, we started watching other documentaries such as Cowspiracy, What the Health, and Food Choices, and some others. And just every day getting more and more motivated and more in love with this whole diet. And I'm seeing how my health continues to be good, lots of energy. This is also around the time I start working out. And I see that I'm still able to gain muscle on a vegan diet despite this. Where your protein, and all these questions on protein and muscle building.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
So
there's no shortage of those kinds of questions.
yeah, no, that's like the most typical question you get. You just have to get used to it,
Yeah. Yeah. So you're kind of getting used to, you're doing more exercise. You're finding that, you're getting more, sort of moving away from trying to get healthy. You're now
Yeah.
healthy, and now you're trying to get, strong, and like build yourself to
Yeah.
have some fitness. And so
So
what kinds of things are you doing for fitness, or for, you're just.
well, basically, my brother, my oldest brother, which is also vegan, he is well, I wouldn't say bodybuilder, but he at least builds a lot of muscle, and his whole journey is to show people that you can get really strong through a vegan diet. and he kind of inspired me to start working out, because
Mm-hmm.
many people say, well, he already was working out before he was vegan, so he's just maintaining muscle. So I thought, well, I also want to show that you can start from zero and get some great change. So that was one of the
That's
things,
cool.
like an extra, so a fourth
Yeah.
point.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So whilst I was researching, trying to learn a bit more about the facts, and not just to say of my experience, but of experiences of others, and some evidence as well to back it up.
Right.
And that's at that time, 2017, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2017, 2018. My other brother was studying medicine, so he was very, very interested in the health part. So I always just talking to him, learning a lot from him, and just building information and knowledge. So these 2 years from 2016 to 2018, not too much talking about veganism, being a bit more shy about it, but learning like to actually, before I start talking to
Right.
people about it, just to actually have the evidence and the facts, straight facts,
So you wanted to prepare yourself to have these kinds of conversations that you
Yeah,
knew you were inevitably going to face as soon as you started talking about your
for sure.
story, right?
Yeah. So it's I think of it like 2 to 3 years of preparation. And of course, when people asked about it, I would answer, but I wouldn't go out of my way to tell people
Mm-hmm.
these things.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, I finished my high school, and I wasn't sure what I want to do. I was into the vegan lifestyle, so I know I want to do something related to it to help
Mm-hmm. Cool.
impact the world in a better place, and to be a better place. I wasn't too sure about it. So in Norway, the good thing about it, we have like university, but we also have another system, which is a 1-year course. So you get extra points for university, and you don't have exams. It's a bit chill, but you learn about things. So it's not
That's
gap
good.
year. So I decided to do that. So
Cool.
that's what I've been doing this year. This 1-year course on fitness and health.
Oh, I got you. Okay, so you're still doing so I'm not familiar with, the school
Yeah,
system there, but it sounds like so there's no exams, you're able to just sort of sounds like you're able to just kind of explore something
yeah.
for a year, I
So
guess.
I'm really happy that I'm half Norwegian at this point. So I don't have this
That's
pressure
good.
to go to uni. There's a
Right.
different, choice to do. It's a bit
Uh-huh.
more chill. There's no stress, and it's just a bit to learn about yourself. It's
I
like,
think that's such a great idea. I don't know why I haven't
yeah,
heard about that, but that sounds great. So the idea is you graduate from high school
yeah,
and then you have a year that you said it's optional, right? So you can
yeah. It's
choose to,
optional. Yeah,
so if you want to know, if you're coming out of high school and you're like gung ho, like I want to be a doctor, like you can go right
yeah.
into that.
Right into the
Or
university.
if you're kind of finishing high school and you're like, I'm not necessarily ready to like commit to a career
Yeah,
path here. I still need a bit of like thinking time, you
yeah,
know, like there's the concept, a lot of people take a gap year.
yeah.
Um,
So yeah,
and
I
I think
say
the
that.
idea there is to do the same, right? Some exploration.
Yeah. So this year is not quite a gap year. It's a bit of a mixture between studying and gap year. So you're studying something that's a field of interest, but not at the level of university, just to explore if you're interested in learning more about this.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's not too hard. You're not using too much time, and you also have a bit of free time to hang out, make friends, and explore yourself and get to know your deep thoughts and what you actually want with your life.
Mm-hmm.
As well as, in my case, we also had a bit of traveling at the end of the year. So that was like the gap year part of the year was a travel. We went to Miami actually, so that was really fun. And
Nice.
so
You liked Miami.
I really liked it for sure.
What'd you like about it?
I really liked the city. I liked seeing how different cultures there is in this one city. There's like the Americans, there's the Cubans, there's South Americans, just a lot of different people there, a lot of different languages, really international.
That's cool.
And yeah, it was really, really fun. I'm just gonna charge my computer.
Have you been to Toronto? Toronto is known for being quite a hub.
And I've never been to Toronto yet, but
Oh
I
man.
love traveling, so I want to get to know so many different places as well.
Yeah, if you're ever in Toronto, let me know. I mean, I'm just north of Toronto, but I love
Yeah,
that city. Like especially in the summertime, man. Oh man, coming like July, August, even September is really nice.
yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah,
I yeah, okay. So you are at, oh, that's such a cool what a cool time of your life, man. Just
Yeah, for sure.
you just got to enjoy and explore, right? And that's great that
Yeah.
you're basically like, what are you doing then on like a daily basis? Like, what is your, like, specifically, what are you doing? So you're sort of playing around with health and
There,
fitness.
that's
Are you
back.
still, oh,
Yeah, it stopped for a few seconds,
oh,
so
we
I didn't
stopped.
hear
Okay.
it.
So,
Yeah.
sorry, I was just saying, yeah, I think my Wi-Fi might've just glitched there for a sec, but,
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
so the idea is you're focusing on sort of health and fitness. Maybe give us a bit more like details about like what specifically are you doing these days?
Yeah. So during this 1 year course, it's mostly focused on fitness, but a bit of health. So
Mm-hmm.
we're learning lots of different techniques to gain muscle, to get better cardio, different types of training, different types of, different types of techniques and workouts to do that affect your body in different ways depending on your goal. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a good start for people that are interested in personal training or fitness related. And I thought
Cool.
I just wanted to check it out if this is something for me. And as well, it has a bit of health. So we learned a lot about protein, carbohydrates, fats, and how it affects your body.
And so
So that's
now
what,
is this a Zoom class? Like, are you just doing
yeah,
like,
there's Zoom class now because of the
yeah,
whole Corona situation.
right.
But yeah,
And so you're still able to, are you having to go against, like, are they the people who's the teacher of this course, or I
yeah,
guess, so you've got like one, how does it work? Is it you're in a class with one teacher, or is it
yeah.
like,
It's one teacher, and we have like class of 15 students.
and so is the
So
teacher telling everybody that they have to eat protein and,
no, actually, she's actually quite good. So she basically says you need a source of protein. Most people choose meat, but for vegetarians and vegans, and she looks at me, you can get it through legumes and quinoa and things like that. But like people, she actually tells people that it's completely possible to a
and so
vegetarian.
how do you deal with it now? Because I mean, now you're sort of, I mean, you were talking about before when you first went on the plant-based diet, you were, you felt like you needed to deal with like this, you weren't ready for people to, talk about your, what was happening with your health and stuff like that. So you avoided that by not saying, I'm doing this to try to reverse this disease, because I imagine, there's all kinds of reasons that you wouldn't want to go into that conversation, right? People could
Yeah,
try to tell you that, oh, that's never going to work, and try to, oh, you
yeah,
need
for
to control.
sure.
So you wanted to completely avoid that. And you said that you were just doing it for basically for the animals. Like,
Yeah,
you
for
said,
the
oh, I think
animals.
it's, yeah.
Yeah,
But at that point, at that point, you didn't really mean it, right? You were just
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of avoiding the conversation. So it's
yeah.
interesting. So now, if you could, you know, compare and contrast now, how do you feel, with, say, your classmates or your friends when they talk about it? How do you approach talking with your friends now?
Well, I do actually. I'm still, I wouldn't say I'm 100% comfortable, but I am trying to, I feel that it's so important to actually spread this message and just put myself out there, to the world and share my, my journey and insecurities for the reason of helping others if they feel the same, if they're going through the same struggles. So yeah, I've told some of my friends that are interested in it about how I went through it. This whole story that I told you right now, I've already told it to a few people, and I'm planning on continue to spread the message and put myself out there to the world for the benefit of others.
I love it, man. You're a legend. You're such a legend, bro.
Thanks, man.
I think, if you're not already, you got to get on TikTok. Are you on TikTok?
Well, I have an account, but I don't really make any content.
Bro, I'm going to be on your case about making videos. I'm not going to let you off the hook, dude. You got to get on. I mean, you saw the episode with me and Hudson. So you've seen Hudson on TikTok?
Yeah, that's where I actually saw him at the first time, was in TikTok, and then looked at his Instagram and then everything, and then I saw he had a podcast with you, and I looked at that and I looked at the podcast and keeping,
Great.
you know.
I love it. I love it. I'm gonna take clips of this, and I'm gonna post it on a TikTok.
Sure, yeah,
you could do the same. Like, literally just like watch this back with your phone, record the screen on your computer,
yeah,
and post it to your TikTok. Like, literally just, if I were you, that's what I would do. I would just, like, I'll post this. I'll send you the link. You can go through the thing. You can just take little, less than 60-second clips of it, and just post like maybe 3 to 4 a day on TikTok. And bro, like, yeah, you just gotta, and I would say, like, you know, the thing with spreading the message, I mean, if I can, I know you haven't asked me for advice, but one thing I would say, if I could just speak, because I've had some experiences, is just don't worry about the numbers at all, man. Don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about what people are going to think. I know it's a process, but like you are, I think you know that what you're talking about, you know, your experience is powerful. I think you know that it can help a lot of people. You've said that you want to share it, you want to help people. So
yeah. Well, yeah, I started already sharing some content and trying to spread it through Instagram.
Yeah, I've seen. It's good, man. Everybody should go. So if people want to follow you on Instagram, what's your Instagram handle?
My Instagram is Andre Venus. So there I just post more of day-to-day things, what I do, a bit of workout, some recipes, meal ideas. And I'm also thinking about maybe doing an IGTV about this, what we're talking about now, so everyone can also get to know that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And again, for starters, man, if you wanted to just take clips from this and post it up on IGTV, feel free to do so. I'll probably do the same. I think that's amazing. Yeah. People got to go check out your Instagram and go check out your TikTok, because hopefully by the time this episode gets posted in like a few hours, you'll already be on TikTok. Cause I think you would dominate, man. If you get, and I think that I know it's uncomfortable, and like, I don't want to push you to do anything that, you know, but on the other hand, I want to encourage you, you know what I mean? I want to encourage you to do what you can, because you have such an awesome story, man. And I'm so pumped to get this podcast out. I think we've done it. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or have we kind of captured anything else you want to go into?
I'd say when it comes to my journey, I think we've covered the most of it. Mm-hmm. But one thing I would like to talk about is advice for vegans for, you know, spreading the message, because we see lots of different tactics. And
absolutely, for sure. Yeah, we can go more into that. Give me any more perspective. I love talking about this stuff. So any perspectives you have, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, well, as I said before, I think that the most important thing is coming from a point of understanding. So like, make sure, I know it might be hard sometimes, you might get frustrated from where do you get your protein, like every single day. You just have to keep calm and remember that we all come from that place. We're grown up learning, you know, that you need meat, you need cheese, you need dairy, you need eggs, all this. Mm-hmm. So you have to come from a point of understanding and try to make sure that they don't feel personally attacked. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's lots of different ways of spreading.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, some people are just gonna get offended, and that's just the way it is, you know. People get offended by anything nowadays. Mm-hmm. But like, I think that you just have to find the way that works for you. So some people think that, you know, aggressive activism is the best way to go, or some people think a bit more passive. And I think it's finding the balance. So like, some people, it affects them much better in an aggressive way. So like, this is murder, and like, you're causing torture and mistreatment of billions of animals, and, you know, being like straight to the point, and that works for some people, whilst that might trigger others and make them hate vegans for, why are you forcing your opinion on everyone, you know. Whilst for others, it's about like, hey man, do you want to come over to my house? I'll make a good little vegan dinner. You can try it out, just see how it tastes. That actually is good. We can maybe watch a documentary if you're interested, you know. So I think it's about finding the way that works for you.
Absolutely. Here's the thing that I mean, I'm just thinking as you're speaking, like, I have compassion for vegans, because vegans are people who see the injustice that's happening, acknowledge it, take action on it. And we have to live in a world where most people, they're just not open to even looking at it, and they deny it and they make fun of it. And, you know, a lot of vegans are very sensitive and easily triggered. Right. And so when somebody says, oh, you know, I need my protein, or they make a joke, you know, vegans get upset. And like, I understand where why they're getting upset. I understand what's making them get upset. I understand the emotion that they're feeling. It's like easy to get angry at people. But I think that I think that with some time and with some, I think we all got to do our kind of like inner work to like come to terms with the fact that we're living in a world that is like based around some pretty nasty stuff, and we need to be strong in like being able to deal with that. So especially people, you know, like if we can find a way to advocate that we're comfortable with, right? And this is why I said, you said to find a balance, right? When you were saying to find a balance between somebody who's just, you know, more passive and, you know, oh, why don't we try these vegan burgers together, and the hardcore, you know, vegan activist is going to be yelling in somebody's face that meat is murder. The balance between that, I would, the way I think about it is, if everybody's doing what works for them, the balance will like be the average effect of that. So what I mean is, like, some people, maybe their personality, their strength, and what they think is most effective, what they find to be most effective, is being an aggressive vegan activist. Let's say, right? There's that person out there. That's how they deal with their frustration. You know, debate what you want about it, but that, for them, that works. And for them, you know, maybe they're able to like work, I don't know, maybe like I'm just imagining some person here, right? But let's imagine somebody who's just, they work a 9 to 5, you know, they provide for their family, they enjoy their family time, but they need to go out and do something. And what works for them is to go out every, you know, whatever it is, every Saturday or whatever, to the animal rights group and go protest in a store, like, you know, and that's their outlet, and that's what works for them. And on the other hand, you have people who could never imagine taking part in, like, you know, some kind of a demonstration, but they really, really want to have an impact. And so they, I don't know, they open up like a vegan bakery, or they, you know, something like that. And then the way I think about it is the average is it balances out. So, I mean, that's kind of, those are some of my thoughts on it. And I think, I mean, I don't know, would you agree with that? Or do you think should we be steering our, like, should we be trying to keep the vegan movement within certain boundaries and be trying to say, oh, these people are too extreme, we need to stop what they're doing? Like, when you see people doing more extreme forms of activism, how do you feel about that? Like, do you say good for them, or do you say we shouldn't be doing that?
Well, like, I think that both of these different ways of doing activism is really good. Like, when I see, for example, Earthling Ed, I'm sure that most vegans know who he is. I think his activism is amazing, really, really good. And sure, he might trigger and annoy lots of people and drive them further away from the vegan diet. But,
he's pretty patient and chill.
Yeah, but there's people that get triggered of anything, right?
Yes, exactly. Then, so like, even with guys like Earthling Ed,
exactly,
people
so that's
still
like,
get triggered.
you have to come to the reality that you're not going to be able to spread the message to everyone.
Great point.
You just have to, you know, come to peace with that. And back to Earthling Ed, for example, I think it's amazing. He makes people really think. Instead of saying this vegan diet causes this and whatever, he actually asks questions, so they think and they make their own conclusions, you know. So I think that's a great way of doing it. And also, like, very direct and a bit more extreme is also good for some people, of course. But I do not really agree with the activists that go, like, just walk in the street and see someone wearing a leather jacket saying, "You are a murderer, you should be ashamed of that." I think is a bit too extreme, because that is personal attack. You're saying that people are worse people than you for using a leather jacket. And I think that's not really good for the movement. I don't know if other people have different opinions, but that's how I see it. That you don't have to go to that extreme where you're calling people awful human beings, that they are, I don't know, like, you know, really mean and discriminating and awful people. They should be ashamed of themselves. I think that's like a bit too far. So I think you should always have in mind that people learn from a young age about the normal standard diet and about all this meat is important for health, and try to, from that, further their knowledge into what we've learned, instead of just saying, are you stupid? You think we need meat for protein, you know? Try to be a bit more understanding and compassionate with how they grew up. Because the way I see it, if we grew up in their shoes, we'd be exactly the same as them.
Right. So basically what I'm getting from that, if we could summarize it, is that while we're advocating, you know, we need to remember to
Yeah.
be kind. Like we
Yeah.
shouldn't be looking to offend and make enemies with other people, right?
Yeah.
We should be looking to perhaps be firm, but you know, like, you know, mutual respect,
Respectful.
being respectful, you know, being, I mean, maybe even polite, maybe not polite, but I don't know. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing that I definitely see what you're saying, is that we need to try to remember where people are coming from. And I think that potentially we're creating barriers for ourselves by creating even more division. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's already enough division, right? Like you said,
Yeah. No.
with Earthling Ed, even though he is doing such a phenomenal job at, you know, relating to people and building rapport with them and getting them to feel like they're just having a conversation. Like, he does a very good job of trying to not say like, this is not me versus you, we're just having a conversation, this kinds of things, right? Just trying to open people's minds up. Even that, you know, that's confrontational, and there's still the people that get offended. So we probably don't need to go out of our way to create more confrontation. But to play devil's advocate, you know, there are certainly those in the vegan movement who would say that it is precisely this kind of conflict and this kind of, you know, drama and fighting and you know, this negative reaction. Some people would say that that is sort of part of what needs to happen to create the social change. And there's there's a debate to be had there. And like, I think it's great. And like, this is the kind of stuff that, you know, like, I would love, one idea I have for a future podcast is to get, you know, I want to get like a panel discussion happening and get some people who have these different perspectives on the best way to advocate, and actually have like a conversation, because this doesn't need to be confrontational either. Like, within the vegan movement, there's a lot of people who are upset with all of the kind of, you know, infighting that goes on, right? Like, we've talked about it before on the podcast, like people who kind of, you know, bash, they don't agree with ways to advocate. But one of the reasons one of the main inspirations for doing this podcast was to, you know, eventually have these kinds of conversations in a way that they are just that, like, let's just talk about it. Because I'm sure we would all love to know, like, if we can use the friggin', I don't know, like, now that we have so much data and, you know, machine learning and algorithms and artificial intelligence, and like, you know, let's try to figure out the most effective way to advocate. But like, right now we don't really have, like, we don't have like data on that. It's just opinions, right?
Yeah. No, but I think that all types are good, because everyone is, you know, they take in the information differently.
Yes,
but
exactly.
I think you just have to find what's for you, you know, what's the way that you're comfortable with, that you think works, and that you're, you know, you like, enjoy, and you feel that you're making a difference. Just do what's right for you. That's what I think is important.
And I think it's important to remember too, that this is like, for a lot of people, who are vegan, they feel like they want to do something, right? Like, a lot of people, it's like therapy to do something, right? Like, to know that you're having an impact, right? To see the injustice that's happening. It's like, man, like that's like, for me, I feel like, you know, if I wasn't doing anything for this cause, it's so important to me that like, I wouldn't sleep as well as at night, you know, I wouldn't be able to, you know, I feel better about myself knowing that I'm doing the best I can to do something. And so I think everybody's got to figure out what they can do, you know, to have the best impact. And man, it's super wicked to see that you're on you've already got a great approach, a great story. You've got a lot, like, just sharing your story, just doing that is like incredibly valuable. So, I mean, it's not to say that it's, you know, I mean, when you think about gratitude, like, are you at the stage now where, like, are you thankful to have gone through this whole experience, or is it too soon to say that? Or
I'd say probably, because it was very mind opening, you know. It opened up a whole different way of living and thinking, and I think that it was great, you know, despite all the stress and insecurities and, you know, teenage awkwardness, it was worth it, to be honest. It changed me as a person, and I think that I've learned so much through this experience, and I just want to share it with people.
Well, I'm glad we did today, man. I think that's a good place to end it. But let's bring you back on, man. Come back onto the Vegan Champion podcast again. We'll follow up.
I'll be very, very happy to do so.
Yeah, man, dude, it's been such a great time chatting with you, and I think people are gonna love this episode. I can't wait to share it. And yeah, man,
Yeah,
all the
man.
best to you. Have a good one, man. We'll
Thank you
catch you
so
next
much. You
time.
too. Yeah,
Take
thank you
care,
so
man.
much for having me, man.